Going throttle up.
Yo, what up? How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Nerd Ledger. We are the Nerds. I'm Cage, and that's Chair right there.
This is Chair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right here. You can't see me, but I am here. I'm just a fictionless voice floating in an infinite void. Or maybe I'm just a real person that doesn't like having a webcam on because I'm just really shy. So.
Well, that's all right. Hey, we all got our own things going on, so.
Yep.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Today is, of course, more talk about Ahsoka, episode 70.
Yes,
not
sir.
70, but 7. Yeah.
Just episode 707.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that. There is some news, so we can like quickly rattle off about that as well, I guess. But other than that, I mean, not a whole lot going on.
Yeah. Well, there is some really big news. Is well for one part of the strike that is impacting nerds everywhere is being undone. So
Well,
that's
I mean, but you know, it's
preemptive so far,
well,
but
no, it went into effect at midnight, I think, last night.
mm,
So the writer strike, which has been going on for almost 5 months, has ended. They've reached an agreement with
yep.
studios, and you know everybody's real excited about it. And you know they're like, we can go back to work and all this stuff. And you know it's true, the writers can go back to work, but you know who's not going back to work is the actors. They're still striking because. Well, they say it's because of AI and other things, but I've also heard a bunch of them on the line saying, I don't get paid enough to dress up and act.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know, and it's really weird. I don't know. I don't know if weird is the right word or like ironic or whatever it is, but like when you hear people talk about like the actors that are on strike, they're like, oh, you know, it's not like George Clooney and Brad Pitt or whatever. Like the big actors were only striking in solidarity with the writers and stuff. But I've seen like pretty well paid actors on strike saying they don't get paid enough. And so,
Yeah,
I
I mean, maybe like some of the training those guys have to do is quite intense. And like when they're doing their own stunts and stuff like that, it's all variable, and it just also just depends on how you inherently value work and like the work you do, the work other people do. It's just it's all kind of up in the air right now. It's
right.
a we're in a
Well,
weird place.
yeah. I mean, like, I get it if it's like TV actors and stuff like that.
Mm.
But Jesus, man, these are bots. Sorry.
We're getting swarmed by bots.
No,
They
like
they at least following us. There's the good kind of bots.
not bots here. Like on Twitter or X. I mean, I still call it Twitter, but like I tweeted we were going to be live later, and obviously because I put the Twitch link, like you get people that are like, I'm also on Twitch, want to connect, and it's like they're just bots.
Yeah.
Like two of them in my inbox say, "How are you doing?" question mark. Like,
How are you doing?
bro, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm fine. Like
Good.
there's a lot of depth to that kind of question. Most of the time, people just say, "Oh, I'm good. How are you?" So I think
Yeah.
I'll go with that. So, but yeah, like we'll see what happens with when the actors are done striking. But I don't
And
know. Like
the video game, they're talking about the video game script writers starting to say if they don't get compensated. And at least for like video game script writers, like you have to do a lot of writing, like, especially if you're like in an RPG or something like that, just with the variable choices alone, probably talking well over 200,000 words. So I could at least see that like saying like, hey, we're not just like your average script writer. Especially like, like we've got a multi-dimensional RPG with multiple choices, and that goes with the voice actors as well. Um, that'll be interesting to see if that happens. But
yeah,
and video games have been getting close to unionization for some time. Like, there was a breaking off a little bit into video game news. There's been a big leak from Microsoft just in the FT when they were filing with the FTC and stuff like that. Which, by the way, big news in gaming land. They have been given the go ahead to acquire Blizzard Games, as far as anyone is aware, and they're gonna buy it up. And I personally wouldn't see this. I personally don't think of the Blizzard of Microsoft acquiring Blizzard as like too big, because I kind of think it's like a mercy killing for Blizzard at this point. Because man, those guys are not doing too hot. That's my 2 cents. But it's just but also it's weird because I saw that they were talking about acquiring Nintendo, and that for me is personally where I would draw the red line. But what do you think about that? If Microsoft owned Nintendo, like, do you think that would be way too big? Like, a probably most likely a monopoly that's like way too huge, so they have controls
Oh
over, like,
yeah, I mean the even the Blizzard thing like was held up for a long time, right? Like
yeah,
you
and
know,
in the UK specifically because of antitrust.
yeah.
Um, and to me, I just don't think them acquiring Blizzard is that big of a deal. Like, yeah, Blizzard's a really
Well,
big company, but
they probably have
they
to
also
sell
have a
off
lot of,
parts of their. So like,
yeah,
I don't I haven't read up on it since we talked about it like last year or something.
yeah,
But my understanding is well of how businesses work, especially with antitrust, is when
mm,
one acquires another or there's a big merger. A lot of times, the company being acquired will sell off a bunch of its assets to make it worth less. So like
mm,
Blizzard could be like, oh well, we'll just sell Activision to somebody else, right?
yeah. Well, I think it's the opposite way around because
But
Activision owns Blizzard, so or maybe they're just one
you know,
company now. I don't know.
or yeah,
Um,
yeah. But like they'll sell off bits and pieces that they don't really need or that like
or
Microsoft isn't
creative
as
titles,
interested
maybe.
in. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
they don't make it less of a problem. That's like uh, I don't. I mean, this is real. This is news people know about. But like anybody who knows what Kroger is, Kroger's a big
mm,
grocery chain across America owned by Walmart or like their own. They they're one company already, and they are merging with Albertsons, which own like Safeways and Save Marts and all those other grocery stores and also Albertsons. And so
mm,
as a result, they had to sell off like 200 or something, 200 of their stores to like legally be able to do that. Um,
yeah.
and so that merger looks like it's going to go through. So there's like stuff like that. Like that's how businesses work. And when you want to buy other businesses and make a bunch more money, unless you're Disney. Uh,
Absolutely. No, it's just so weird to see like Microsoft saying like, yeah, dude, we should just outright buy Nintendo because like they suggested hostile takeover like that because that is something you can still do. Like, like it was like a meme, but like it is something like that's what they were talking about doing, and it's just
well, it's more or less what Elon Musk did with Twitter, right?
yeah, pretty much.
But
Well then,
but
and then
they,
too, but
they
he kind of talked, he publicly talked himself into a corner is kind of the problem with that. When you say things in a public square, it turns out the judge takes them very seriously. So. It's just weird to
yeah,
have like in the back end, just the kind of unhinged debate, that kind of unhinged behavior is like, all right, let's fucking buy Nintendo. On to
yeah,
the next one. Like it's just kind of like that to me, like is a head scratcher. It's like, damn, dude, calm down. Like you just acquired like World of Warcraft, which was arguably set the standard for MMORPGs for 15 years. Diablo, which is a very much well-loved franchise, which unfortunately is just suffering from the fact that they're trying to appeal to this Chinese mobile game market, and then they're also trying to appeal to American consumers, which are just two totally different types of consumers with two totally different, like, what they want. And I think it's really hard to cross those, like, cross that trench.
sure,
And and what else? Like Modern Warfare, which is like the only like gold bar they have, because World of Warcraft has its own issues right now, except for Classic, which is doing fine, because they're giving the people what they want. And but Diablo is, after their new update, a lot of people are still playing Diablo 3, especially because it's like the last season of Diablo 3 is going on right now, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of people are playing it right now. Like more people think are playing Diablo 3 than Diablo 4 right now. So it's just they got issues. It's not like this is like a perfect company. And I'm sure there are a couple other titles they own that I'm not like misremembering it, but I really think the only solid one is Modern Warfare.
well, I mean, the biggest problem with Blizzard has been operationally. They've been a nightmare for the
Yeah.
past couple of years, but probably forever. But like it's come out in the past couple of years. But yeah, I mean, their titles, have suffered for various reasons as well.
Yeah.
Especially like when they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna release a sequel to our game that has PVE and all this stuff, and then we're gonna release it and it won't have PVE, and then we'll
Mm.
add it later, but no, we won't. There's actually gonna be no campaign. We lied, like, you know,
Yeah. Especially with oh, that's right, Overwatch. I was
yeah,
forgetting because Overwatch is such a fucking dumpster fire. It just didn't
yeah.
register with me right now. It's called Overwatch 2, but it's not really Overwatch 2.
It's
It's the same
Overwatch
fucking game.
One.
Yeah. The
With
Overwatch League the Overwatch League fell apart. They had to sell their fucking custom stadium they built just
it
for the
fell
Overwatch.
apart when honestly when they sold the rights to YouTube because nobody
Yeah.
watches like YouTube is getting more popular with streams and streamers, but like it's
Not
everybody
for
knows.
MLG. All the pro gaming is on Twitch. That's just how it
Right,
is. Like
right.
all the biggest ones, like ESL's there. Like all the Counter Strike 2 just came out today, which is another
Yeah.
big piece of
And
news.
when
But
and when Overwatch League was on Twitch, it did numbers.
mm,
Like better numbers than when it was on YouTube, right? And I mean, there's a whole bunch of other reasons why Overwatch League is failing and will fail, but
mm.
we don't need to get into all that.
Yeah, and this kind of sucks because I was really hyped for those first few weeks of Overwatch. Like those first few months. Like I was watching all the games and stuff like that. I was really into the SF Shock, which is our local team, San
Yeah.
Francisco Shock. But they just, it just the viewership went down. People stopped going to the streams, and their Discords became like hyper moderated, and they weren't
Well,
very fun
and all the
anymore to
pros
hang out
left
in.
too. Like all the good
Yeah,
pros went over to like
and babe,
Valorant or
yeah,
CS or
baby. I think when Baby Bay left, who is like one of the chief, like he was one of the top performers in like the preseason for. He was the reason why everyone thought the SF Shock because he's a really good like first person shooter player. So he's like their damage dealer in Overwatch. I don't know the specific roles, but like I know they have hard carries like other games. And I left, and now when I see him on streaming, he's like doing Valorant, right? Everyone's
yeah. I
playing
mean
Valorant now.
Sinatra as well, like players
Yeah,
like that. But like I mean, and obviously one of the biggest players going in because of streaming was XQC, and then all
yeah,
that drama happened with him as well, and he's
yeah,
still like the biggest streamer. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like none of these people anymore really need Overwatch League. Overwatch League needs them.
yeah.
So
Well, I think that's how it is. Like
And I
with
think in the
college, but
future, like it'll be less of like playing through the ranks to make a team, and more of like if they want to survive, they're gonna just scout the most popular Twitch streamers that are high ranked,
yeah,
because then you'll get people to watch, right?
yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean it'll deteriorate a bit of the competitive nature of it, but
yeah.
yeah. But anyway, like on the writer strike ending again. I don't know why this was news, but it came out today. I saw an article that said Deadpool 2 may not meet its May release date, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty obvious. It's only halfway done. The actors are still on strike, and
Yeah. The biggest
that's
thing.
in like 6 months or
Yeah.
7 months. Like it's not going to be done. Like, but I mean, it could be done. Like it's entirely possible, but we know how these studios work. They're not gonna rush it through. Like they're gonna delay and they're gonna delay and they're gonna delay, and that's gonna be what keeps happening. Echo was supposed to come out in November. It's coming out, I think, in January. There
Mm.
was some news about that because the synopsis came out. And it's I read a headline something like, "Oh, fans won't be happy with Vincent D'Onofrio's role in it" or some shit. And then I
Mm.
read the synopsis and all it didn't say, it barely said anything about him. Like I don't get that. But anyway, yeah, like him, Charlie Cox is also coming back for that. Apparently that was a surprise. I don't know. Like I feel like we knew all this stuff, so it's not really news.
Yeah.
And then James Gunn also talked about some returning actors for the DCU. And really, he only named three. One is the guy who played Blue Beetle,
Mm.
Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and John Cena as Peacemaker. But he pretty much said everything that's come out, none of it is canon. The actors are going to return, but the DCU doesn't officially start until Creature Commandos, which is animated, comes out next year, and then Superman
Mm.
Legacy comes out in 2025. So those are like the first two projects of the new world, and will establish a new canon. And he said, of course, parts of the stories will, you might be familiar with because they're still DC stories. So whatever. But anyway, I don't know. I'm glad he didn't say Ezra Miller is coming back. That's all I really cared about.
Yeah.
I
That
mean, that
guy
doesn't
kind of
mean he's
fell off the
not.
map, didn't he?
Well,
Or that person.
hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, you never
Hopefully we won't
know.
see them again.
Yeah, that's the hope. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens with all of that. But other than that, I mean, like news comes out every now and then, but none of it's ever really that interesting, or like relevant, I guess.
Mm.
But let me see if there's anything worth talking about before we jump into Ashoka, which ends next
Yeah.
week. By the way, there's only one episode left of Ahsoka.
Mm. I'm trying to think if
Um,
there's anything other gaming news, but nothing that strikes the top of my head. But I'm usually pretty uninvolved sometimes, unless I'm not. But I just think those Microsoft FTC filings are probably the biggest chunk of gaming news we've gotten in a while. mean, now it's like it all depends on what kind of games you like. So I don't like to say, "Oh, this game's coming out soon," because like, what if you don't care? And Baldur's Gate 3 is getting patches. That's good because it's Baldur's Gate 3 is probably good. I guarantee you, in probably next year, by this time next year, that Baldur's Gate 3 will play like almost an entirely different game than it does like right now
Oh, I'm sure it
because
will.
because of how much they're going to change and patch and fix and all that kind of stuff. Because Larian's known for doing like apparently I didn't play Divinity Original Sin 2, but apparently they changed the ending of that game because like the fans hated it so much and there's a lot
Mm.
of story stuff and hopefully they're going to do DLCs, but
Yeah,
just patches for now.
I don't know if you said it already, but do you think Baldur's Gate will be Game of the Year?
I think it's gonna. I don't know. Usually, a lot of Armored Core. I've heard Armored Core 6 is really, really beautiful to look at, but also, there's a lot of other games that came out this year, and it's a hard one. There was a Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy came out this year. That's another thing a lot of people are forgetting. Everyone's like, that's the only game people could talk about for months when that game came out. I
Well,
was just
yeah,
confirming
but
that
there's a
it
lot of
came out this.
controversy around it too. But
No, there isn't that much controversy. It died out almost
well,
immediately, and
I
everyone
mean, there
started
was
playing
on
it. And it was
Twitter, but
okay. Well, Twitter is nothing but controversy. It's a controversy machine.
you're
Did you
not
know there's
wrong.
controversy? Hey, did you know there's controversy about Star Wars?
No way.
Yeah,
Oh,
probably on Twitter.
so something I've been meaning to talk about a little bit is
Oh boy.
the creator.
Hmm.
This is a movie that
Oh,
come
okay.
that comes out actually this week. Um, and it's by Gareth Edwards, who was the original director on Rogue One.
Mm.
Uh, before that kind of got, before reshootings and stuff happened, and they changed the tone and shot the Darth Vader scene with Tony Gilroy, who helmed the Andor TV show.
Mm.
But yeah, Gareth Edwards made this movie called The Creator, and it looks to me like he took a lot of inspiration from a comic book series that came out in 2015 called Descender,
Mm.
which is about like a little boy robot who like pretty much like the world is ending
Mm.
and he gets powered off, and then when he gets powered on it's like way in the future, and there was like a robot like Civil War revolution thing, and so like he's like trying to find his owner, like the guy who like was his like not it's not called an owner but as like his friend pretty much, but like as a
Mm.
human. Like so he's like on a mission to find him and stuff, and he's like, it's I love it. It's a great comic book series. And that's what this seems like. I don't know. It's just like a little boy robot, and like there's like like it's like it deals with like AI and like the AI turning against humans and causing a war. And I'm just like, yo, like, did you just like read Descender and decide I want to make that into a movie or some shit? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But initial reviews have been really really positive. I've seen a bunch of like 5 out of 5s for it and shit, except
Mm.
for except for was is either Variety or Vanity Fair like panned it super hard. But like I read the comments section, everybody's like, "Yo, these people never give good reviews for anything."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I'm interested in
There-
seeing it, but
yeah. Well, I'm just looking over the games coming out this year. There's so many good games that came out this year. Like it's hard to
well,
top. So not I don't know what's going. But I think Armored Core 6 because it looks really beautiful and like it plays kind of like an action game. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is definitely a contender though. It's
Jedi
like that.
Survivor came out this year, right?
What did?
Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, or did it? Double
I
check.
believe so. It came out like 2 months
So many,
ago, right? Like
so
recently.
many, so many games came out, bro. Oh my
But
God.
also on that note, they did release there's a third one coming out of the Jedi
Yeah, I
Fallen
saw
Order
the
Jedi
I
Survivor
I saw
series.
that announcement. It's usually
Um,
how they do games now is like a good trio, so I'm glad they got that completing trio. It's a lot more than like Deus Ex got. I wish Deus Ex might could have wouldn't gotten its last game. That sucks it didn't.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's so many good. Pikmin 4 came out this year, and those Nintendo games, how well they sell and how well they're received, and like the simple animation and how well like quality the game feels.
well, Nintendo's
Ah,
biggest problem is so like when you were talking about like if Microsoft should buy them, probably not, but somebody should buy Nintendo because like I feel like Nintendo, like they still make some good products, but they make some bad products as well. But their biggest
yeah,
issue is that like they DMCA everybody, and like that's
yeah.
their right, but like it
Well,
it
I think
it
that's just
hurts
a
their
problem with
players.
Yeah, it's like a big problem with just old, a lot of old school people at the top of the company that have old school mentalities about copyright law and about content creation and stuff like that, Like they just don't it doesn't make they just don't get it and they don't want to get it. Like
Yeah.
it took them forever just to allow Nintendo content on YouTube. Like, for the early days of Halcyon days on YouTube, they were like a sledgehammer just saying take all your content down and
Well,
never
and they
publish
still
any.
do that with like tournaments. Like they don't let
Yeah,
people run tournaments of their games, like Smash or anything. Like they DMCA all of that,
yeah,
and
and
so like it hurts their
it's
players more than anybody. Like to
it does.
like I, it's not like you can't have tournaments, but you can't broadcast them.
And also their problem is their hardware. Like, the Nintendo hardware has always been
Bro,
really good at
my
running Nintendo
iPhone
games.
has better fucking graphics than the fucking Nintendo Switch.
Which, yeah, like the Switch, like th this always happens. Like my sister's playing Breath of the Wild, which is another game that came out this year, which I think is another clear contender for Game of the Year,
What,
which
Breath of
is
the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom?
Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, sorry,
Bro,
Tears of the
isn't
Kingdom. I
the
always get 'em.
background of that game just a JPEG?
No, but no, I think you're thinking of the Pokemon
Oh
games.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The Arceus one, I think.
Yeah, no, yeah, Arceus or Scarlet and Violet still look kind of cheesy, but they're Pokemon games, so like like again, different structure, different folks. Pokemon games are always different, just different. And they're one of the most popular, well-selling games of human history. So
Billion dollar company, 10 cent
don't yeah,
JPEG.
yeah, don't knock them, man. I'm telling you, because Pokemon like Nintendo is 75% Pokemon, and then it's like 25% all the other games
Bro,
combined. Like
come, Mario's a big percentage.
I don't know, I think because of the movie maybe, but like not the actual game. Like if you're
Bro,
looking at pure
Super
game sales.
Mario's always popped off. Like, I mean, I've never been a big fan of like Mario Party, but like, all the other Mario's have been fun. You know, I mean, there's some bad ones, but
Yeah.
I love
And they
Mario.
just Pokemon games just sell really well whenever you slap your name on it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, but
The
there's a
Pokemon
lot of
name
really
on.
bad Pokemon games too. Like,
Oh
bro,
man,
what
I'm
the
playing.
fuck is the point of Pokemon Snap?
It's fun because a lot of people like it because people enjoy it.
Bro, what do you do in like honestly I've never played the
You
game. What do you
take
do? You literally just take pictures of
so
Pokemon? That's it?
you so you're no you're on a little rail like you're going through like the sequence of events, right? It's kind of like there's a bunch of stuff happening around you and you got to capture the Pokemons when they're doing certain actions or things. But yeah, that is the core gameplay mechanic is you're
And you
just
just
taking a
wait.
picture of
You
Pokemon.
just wait.
No, but you're on like rails, so you're moving around and the world's moving around you and you gotta like, run through it and like, do it a couple times to get all the Pokemon at their best points so you can get the high score. And then you could throw bait to attract certain Pokemon in certain rare locations. You can like, you can throw acorns at certain Pokemon that are sleeping to wake them up so you can get better photos, stuff like that.
Bro, how much did Nintendo pay you to try to sell their games to me?
I'm just saying that people like it for specific reasons, man. Like I really like the Pokemon Ranger games, and all you do is like just spin circles around Pokemon. So
All right,
it's
fair
like
enough.
you're like Pokemon Animal Rescue. It's great. I love it. Um, just saying, man. Some people don't knock Pokemon. I'm gonna
No,
say
I love
Pokemon
Pokemon.
fans
I
are
love
like,
Pokemon, but
yeah,
yeah.
they're really good and they sell really well. And but yeah, though
All I'm
for
saying
Game
is
of the
taking
Year,
pictures of Pokemon is the least important part of every Pokemon game. So then to make one game based around it is weird to me. Like,
it was
like
pretty. It was also a pretty short game. It's another thing no one really talks about. Like you beat that game in like 3 or 4 hours, honestly. There's a couple
yeah,
of really fun mini games attached to it too that you can play with your friends, multiplayer and stuff like that. Back in the N64's Halcyon days.
yeah.
I never had an N64.
I didn't either, but my friend did, and I'd stay the night at his house a lot. And I always preferred watching than playing because I always felt like I would get in trouble if I was bad, so I never wanted to
Hmm.
play.
Oh,
So yeah,
Mortal Kombat 1 came out, and a lot of people really like that game.
is there a campaign to that game?
Yeah, there is. There's always
Okay,
been a campaign for the Mortal Kombat games. They're
I know
actually really
I know
cool.
that, but like I didn't know if this one had a campaign or
Yeah,
not.
it
I figured
does.
it does, but
Yeah, it's pretty wild too. They've gotten a lot less edgy over time, but they're still like there. Now they're kind of like action movies, more like because they used to be pretty bloody and like gory all the time, but now they're more like action movies.
hmm,
So
nice. All right,
yeah, Final
well,
Fantasy 16 came out this year. Damn,
does
dude.
anybody care about that?
Yeah, but a lot of people really like that game. A
Really?
lot of people really, yeah, a lot of people really like that game.
That one is it more like classic Final Fantasy or is it more like Final Fantasy
Marvel,
whatever 14 or whatever that was like wow.
no, Final Fantasy 14 is a no thing. It's more of like, I'd say it's more like Final Fantasy 11 or 12.
Oh, okay.
which is more like kind of the action RPG where you sort of queue up it's a lot more like yeah, real time.
Okay.
Speaking of great games though, freaking I got Mass Effect Legendary. Do you know what Mass Effect is? Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I know what it is.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty good. Like pretty good science fiction writing. It's like playing a science fiction novel. But the Legendary Edition was for sale on EA Games and it's for $8. It was the
Oh
first
shit. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no please what's
I was
up?
gonna say the Avengers game is like about to like leave all stores forever, so it's like super cheap. I think on all the stores
Yeah.
because I don't think
And you
anybody
can
played it. But
yeah, it's $4 for the definitive edition.
yeah, maybe I should buy that. Is it shit? Is that why nobody played it, or is it just
It's still mixed. I don't know. You and I could play it. We could do online co-op. We could check it out and
I don't know. I don't even know I have enough space on my computer for it.
it's $4 right now.
On Steam?
Yeah, the first review is it's not an enjoyable game. Starting with the menu, finding the next mission as fun as doing taxes, and the missions are not good. They're boring, very repetitive. I bought it for $5, but it's only worth $5. Did I
So I
remember they
should.
announced
I'm never gonna play it, so I'm not gonna buy it. Let's be honest.
we could play we could get on, you and I could play together.
Is there online co-op on it?
That's what it says. Online co-op. And like
Interesting.
with how Steam works now, essentially like it just makes a little LAN server for you and I to join.
Hmm.
One of these days you and I should play Baldur's Gate 3. Like we should do that
How
one
much is
day.
that game? Isn't it like $60?
It's 60, yeah, it's a full price game, but
Jesus.
it's worth it for being a full price. It's a good full price game, I'll tell you that.
Bro, I'm a brokey.
Yeah, we're all brokies, but you know.
Oh, also, when is that convention? I don't remember.
Which convention?
The
The East
East Bay
Bay,
one.
the card one? The one was like $10.
Yeah. Man, it doesn't really matter. I don't.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up. I'll look it up right now.
I mean,
It's not even where to go.
it might get me out of a tea party, to be honest. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, we'll talk about Ahsoka, guys. Don't worry.
It's October 21st and 22nd.
Shit, that's not the tea party day. Well, anyway.
Only $10, but I'm worried it's gonna be more sports. But then it says
Oh yeah.
Pokemon, TGC, collectibles, and more. So
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
because
We'll
even
see.
the video from last year, like it was just like a
Yeah, it's
couple
just
of
sports cards. Yeah.
no, it was a
I
couple.
saw
I
some
saw a picture.
Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe it'll be bigger this year because like the East Bay is like growing really big. So eventually there's gonna be big nerd con out here one of these days. Like in this
Yeah.
whole like Pittsburgh, Antioch, Brentwood, Oakley strip. I feel like there's
Yeah.
gonna.
I mean, do you have a good place to have a convention there, like a convention center or something?
Yeah, I'm sure the Antioch Fairgrounds is the first one. You can put a giant tarp over or something like that.
Oh,
I
that's
mean, it's
fair.
not,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of big open spaces. I'm sure there's a big warehouse you could probably rent out too. A lot of warehouse space on this part of the bay. But I'm sure there's got to be like a Marriott or something like that close off of Highway 4. That
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They
yeah.
have ballrooms and all sorts of things that they can use.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
We should
Well,
volunteer for SAC Anime and learn the inner workings, and then we'll do it and
uh,
make
yeah.
jillions of dollars.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Aw.
All right.
What else? Ahsoka?
Yeah, let's talk about Ahsoka. We'll talk about
Got it.
episode 7 of Ahsoka. I mean, it's another solid episode.
Yep.
But I do feel like. Oh, also, I posted a clip on TikTok, of us last week, just talking about like how we liked the episode, but like it wasn't like the episode everybody was making out to be. Like it wasn't like the best episode ever. And someone
Yeah.
responded, "Ahsoka's really good. You just have high standards." And I was just like, "Well, yeah, I agree. It's really good. I didn't say it was bad."
I agree. I agree.
I don't
I
know what
agree
you
it's
want me to say
good.
to that. Yeah, like
I agree that it's good and that I also have high standards.
yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, this episode was solid, and I just feel like the only thing it really was like lacking was more explanation about anything. Like
Mhm.
we don't have any confirmation of how long Ezra and Thrawn have been there. We don't know anything about anything really. Like we don't know why the Night Sisters are helping Thrawn necessarily. Like they don't really explain much, and so I don't know if that's coming or if well, by the way, spoilers for the episode. If you haven't seen it, we will be talking more in detail about the events of the episode. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can bounce. Um,
Yeah, spoilers. It's
yeah,
physically impossible for Cage and I to discuss these episodes without spoiling them. So definitely get out of here now.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I just feel like that like there's a lack of confirmation about things, and like you can kind of piece it together, right? Like the thing that in my mind I'm forgetting is at what point does Ezra like do the Star Wheels take Ezra and Thrawn away? Like what at what point in Rebels is that? Is that like during during A New Hope? Is that like during the battle, like before the Battle of Yavin, or is it after, or like at what point does that occur?
I have no idea, homie.
Because if it's at the point where, let's just say it happens at this, in the same year that the Battle of Yavin happens, right?
Yeah.
Then Ezra's been there for 11 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Just
Um,
chilling.
and again, 11 years, you would think, how has Thrawn not found him? And like
Ezra's really good at hiding.
and sure, maybe like Thrawn's priority is getting back, like that's his whole ordeal, like that's what his plan is. But I feel like we have no explanation about anything that's gone on since they've been there,
Mm.
right? And so I don't know if that's coming or not. I also feel like they've done a very good job of conveying to the audience that Balin has underlying motivations and there's something else there. They've done a good job of telling us, "Hey man, this guy's not all he seems to be." But they won't tell you what he is. Like when are we going to get that in the next episode? Like is everything coming to a head in the finale, or is the finale, and this is what I think is going to happen to be honest, is the finale a setup for something else?
Yeah, cliffhanger for the movie that's coming.
Could be a movie,
Didn't
or
know. Didn't they confirm Dave Filoni's doing a
Dave
movie?
Filoni is doing a movie. Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and we know that this takes place around almost exactly the same. No, just after the the season 3 of The Mandalorian, because they referenced the siege on Mandalore, right?
Mm.
The recent one, the events that happened on Mandalore, right? So we know this takes place around the same time as that, which which then at that point you're okay. Hold on, let me bring my
Yeah,
thoughts.
bring it all together.
Yep. Okay.
Think of it all. Bring it all. Use your brain juices, bro. Squeeze it in and squeeze it back out.
Yes. So the movie that Dave Filoni is doing is kind of a congregation of these shows, I believe, and so it
Mm.
would make sense, right? Because this Ahsoka and the Mandalorian all, and it all kind of takes place around the same time, right? And
Mm.
so that's like this all could be leading up to that, or it could be leading up to something even bigger, right? And one of the things I think is that the finale will end with Thrawn returning.
Mm.
Like, obviously, if he doesn't return, that like if he returns, I mean, you haven't left any time for anything, right? So like, you either have to win, get your heroes home, and abandon Thrawn there, and destroy the hyperspace ring, or use it or whatever, so that he can't go back, or you have to set up for the future by having him return, right?
Mm.
So those are the only options. He's either abandoned there and everybody goes home happily ever after, or he goes back and you end the season right there.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be the second one, right? Like I think he'll return, and they'll just end the episode. And the reason I think that is because, like, and I get it. Like I know that the books are not canon,
Yeah.
right? Very clearly they're not canon. Even like everything about Thrawn compared to the books is kind of different, like his story and timeline and all that stuff. However, if you do know the books and you are familiar with Heir to the Empire, you know that Thrawn and Luke and Mara Jade and all these people are present. And all I'm saying is maybe Thrawn returns and they use that as a spin-off to bring in Luke and Han and Leia, who, during the events of Heir to Empire is pregnant with her twins, but that's not going to happen, obviously,
Hmm.
because she doesn't have twins in this canon. But I think it's all possible, to be honest. I think that they might look at that and say, we have the opportunity to do something really cool for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And I don't know how you do that necessarily. I don't know if they're going to do the face CGI thing with Luke again. You can't recast Leia. I mean, you really just can't recast her. And I don't think that her family wants her likeness being used either, so you can't CGI her.
Hmm.
You could bring back Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. I think they've shown us that they're more than happy to give fans the service they desire, and
Hmm.
I think they would do that absolutely. And so I think there's a big possibility there because fans will want more Thrawn, and at this time, this is 5, 6, 7, 6.5, 6 years, 7 years after Return of the Jedi, right?
Hmm.
And so, you know, we know the First Order needs to rise, and we know all these things need to happen in this timeline. And how do we make those things happen? And there's so much story they can tell there, and so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. But that's my far out conspiracy theory.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, I disagree that they would be willing to recast Leia. I feel like they would do that because, like,
Yeah, they would because there's money
I
in it.
feel, I no, not because there's money, because I just feel like they tried to do it. Because like obviously with the story they're trying to tell, Leia is still there and she's still a general of the Republic or whatever,
Well, I
or
mean,
on the defense.
she's called out by name in this episode as well.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing. Like, I was worried that they were going to CGI her in this episode the whole time. Like, during that whole episode, I was waiting for them to do it or for her to be recast. And I feel like they are going to recast her soon.
Yeah,
Or maybe they won't, and they won't bring it up ever again. I just don't know. It's really hard to tell like what direction they want to take it in because they can't keep jerking off nostalgia forever. Like, eventually they need to go in their own little direction here.
yeah.
And
I mean, I feel like they kind of are, but at this
they
this episode
they
had
are.
two big fan service moments, right? And both of them worked really well for me, right? The appearance of C-3PO,
Mm,
I don't know why, I just enjoyed it. And then the hologram recordings of Anakin, right? Which it's also a carryover from Rebels, right? We know Ahsoka like has these recordings of him and watches them from time to time, right?
mm,
And so that's a good callback, but it's also a great moment of fan service, and it works for me. And the C-3PO thing worked for me as well. So I was happy with those. I didn't feel like they were like distractions or like forced in parts of the story. But I can understand why people might think the C-3PO one was kind of forced in.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Just a fun little reference. Like, oh hey, remember 3PO? And again, I really do feel like if Carrie Fisher was alive, that would have been her there in that moment, which I don't know. That would have been interesting to see.
oh, I mean, but it can't really be her, right? She'd be too old at that
No, I
point
mean, I
for
mean,
it.
if she was still alive, I think they would have done her like then
Oh,
and there.
they would have CGI'd her probably, like how they did
No,
in Rogue One.
yeah, I don't
They
know.
even
Maybe
did it
they would
in
have
Rise
done.
of Skywalker.
I
Like,
think they would have done an older version of her, like not Rogue One, because it's how old, she's still a bit. They did do it in Rise of Skywalker, but that was only for a quick moment, just for like, that final part of the episode before she died.
yeah,
Um, but she was kind of old. It's kind of the part where she's kind of old. Like, this is post everything, so yeah,
yeah. But she's also, at least in book canon, she's learning to be a Jedi at this point more and more.
yeah.
So we'll I don't know what'll happen honestly with all of that. Like,
I'm excited for Ahsoka to go into the world between and then find a different reality, and then that's the Star Wars reality that all the movies take place in now.
yeah, I mean, maybe maybe we pull the Loki here and just branch the timeline.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And
That's what I'm
so,
thinking they're gonna do. Because
and
again, they're in really confusing territory right now with kind of everything. So with like what character actors they can and can't use, like we don't know if they're going to we just don't know if they're. You're right. We don't know if we're going to recast the characters. But the way these stories are set up, it's just inevitable that these characters would collide with the storyline.
yeah.
And it's a very awkward. It's like a very awkward way to be wonky way to be walking.
Well, it's because we know they're out there, right? Like we know Luke is out there at this point in
Yeah.
time. We've seen
Which
him
is a,
in other
which is
TV
again
shows.
why I disagree with them using him in the Mandalorian. Or I think they should have used another character for that, and that would have been like that would have made this its own thing. When they brought Luke Skywalker in, that's when this for me like kind of broke. When they brought Luke Skywalker in, they just kind of contaminated this new pool with all the old stuff, and now people just kind of waiting for their characters they know from the past to swoop in and save the day when it's supposed to be about new characters.
Well, I mean,
Even
it doesn't help that like they're literally involved with the same organizations that these characters are involved in too, right? Like Leia
yeah,
is instrumental in building the New Republic.
the New Republic. Yep.
Luke also like was with her during that time. I mean, Han
And
was
Luke would
out trying to
have
recruit smugglers at that time,
and
but
and and Luke would have anything to do going on with any sort of Force anything going on. Like if there's Dark Jedi
exactly.
running around doing stuff, he's gonna narrow in at some point, especially Night Sisters who set off frickin' who use Dark Force magic, which is like
Yeah.
a flare for
I
Jedi
mean, they're in a
basically.
different galaxy though, so maybe it doesn't reach that far. I don't know. Like, it that makes sense, but at the same time, it's like within your own galaxy, Balin and Shin and Sabine and Ahsoka were all there, and sure, Ahsoka came and visited you when you were training Grogu, but like, you're not pursuing any of those people at
Mm.
all ever. Like, I don't know. Like, it just seems odd, but it seems like, Luke would need to be involved somehow in some of this, right?
Yeah,
Like moving forward into the future, um,
exactly. Yeah, I
especially
feel
if
like
Thrawn returns.
having him involved in that Dark Trooper scene just kind of set the standard that at some point Luke Skywalker is going to swoop in and save the day. And these characters aren't special, and the
Yeah.
only thing that matters is Luke Skywalker.
Well, I don't think the thing is like Luke's. I don't think Luke's force sensitivity and reach is that far in general. Like
Yeah,
the only reason he found Grogu is because like he went to that big stone thing, or whatever, like
mm,
and connected through the force.
yeah,
But I don't know how he found Grogu from there. Like it didn't put like some homing beacon on him or some shit.
yeah.
So I don't know how that works mechanically, but um, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like where they choose to go. It's hard to imagine that they could do anything. Like if Thrawn doesn't return, sure, we get it. But if Thrawn returns, like he's a big threat to the New Republic. He's the biggest threat
Yeah,
to the New Republic. And who's your biggest asset in the New Republic to stop threats is Luke Skywalker.
yeah.
So, I mean, you gotta do it. Like they've written themselves into this corner. So, and even then, right? Like Hera's aware that Thrawn may return, even though the New Republic doesn't believe it. And if she's aware of that and thinks he's gonna return, wouldn't they then key in Luke Skywalker as well?
Hmm.
Like you would think that would happen. So I don't know.
Yeah,
And maybe they're going to because in this episode, Mon Mothma does ask Hera like, how real is the threat, right? And she says, we should prepare for the worst, right?
yeah.
And maybe that means call Luke Skywalker. I don't know. But if if he shows up in the finale, will you be annoyed?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured that'd be your answer, but I don't think you will. I think it just like you're gonna have all this
Isn't that
all.
what you said last time too? No, there's no way Luke is gonna show up and save the day. It's gonna be Ezra and Rao. There's no way they'd bring Luke into this.
Yeah, I did say that there was no way they would bring Luke. I did say that. Well, I
And
also
look what
said
fucking happened,
I
brother.
said that in the vein of there's no way they'll recast him, and to be honest, they didn't recast him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Mark
Well,
Hamill there. They just did his thing. They did a little CGI work.
I
Um,
just think it's really dumb. So was there? Ugh.
yeah, I don't know. I like. I think the final episode will be like some a lot of conversating, and then Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine confronting Thrawn or trying to,
Hmm.
and him getting away and escaping and returning, and hopefully we wrap up Balin's story and figure out what his actual end goal was.
Do you know what the
Um,
do we know what the runtime of the last episode is? Is it like an hour and
I
a
have no
half? Feels
idea.
yeah, I just want to
I
wait
mean,
and see.
one
I
of my
feel
coworkers said like she needs it to be at least 2 hours to do everything it needs to do. Um,
exactly. That's
so
kind of the problem. So maybe it is going to be like I feel like for me
my
at least
prediction is
an
probably
hour
like
and
an
a
hour 10 is like
an
the
hour and
longest it would be.
I'm thinking an hour and they're going to do an hour and a half. This
Yeah.
honestly part of this feels like Dave Filoni sharpening his teeth for his movie. That's what part of this feels like.
Right.
And we'll just have to wait and my favorite line, wait and see. We have to wait and see like the final episodes next week, and then we can see how this all ties together and whether or not they're able to put a good capstone on like the structure they're building.
Yeah. And I do have two potential guests lined up to join us for that conversation next week.
Ooh.
I told both of them webcam is optional,
Yep.
and they can use whatever names they want to be called, if, besides the real name, if they don't want to use the real name. So
Yep.
we got two lined up just in case. We can have a full discussion. I'm hoping. I don't know. I know one of them has seen Rebels and Clone Wars like many times. I don't know if the other one has seen them. So like it'd be good to get someone's perspective who hasn't seen them on how easy it is to understand Ahsoka
Mm.
without it, or if they get lost or whatever. That would be good. But I don't know if he has, then whatever. But yeah. But if yeah, like I said, if you have anybody also that you want to join us, everybody's more than welcome. Um,
No, I don't
so
have any. One, I don't really have any friends, and two, the friends I do have don't really go on podcasts. And when I did that does have on the one that we did have on this podcast like one time, she's got a second kid now, so
oh
there goes there goes that idea
yeah,
right at the window. So yeah,
yeah. But for this episode, for episode 7, I really liked the episode. It was interesting they tried to court martial Hera for for some shit.
yeah, for
Like
some dumb contrived bullshit, so they
yeah.
could make you feel like that there's some sort of I knew it was just like
Yeah, and then C-3PO was like, "Ha, General Leo Organa has authorized
approved
Hera's
it,
mission,
yeah.
so we do
Hmm.
not have to be here." And
And then everyone's like, okay, and then they
uh,
leave.
well, I mean that one dude, Zionis or whatever, he was still
Hmm.
pissed off. He was like, "Ah, my motherfucker," and then C-3PO was like, "A bitch." By the way, Organa's like, the general or like the Secretary of Defense or some shit. So like, if you don't like it, you could talk to her, mother sucker.
Yep.
Yeah. And then he was very dejected and gave up. I don't know why he was so adamant about wanting to like prosecute Hera, but like it's crazy how dumb people in the New Republic are. They're just like, we have plenty of former Imperial people who work for us, and they are all doing fantastic. None of them clearly ever want to go back to the Empire. Like they totally
Yeah.
love us. We saved them, bro. Like, what is this America complex the New Republic has? Like everybody would just be happier if they lived in America, and we should go, free all the peoples around the world that are being oppressed. Like, bro, some people don't want that. So you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just think it has to do with the near, like, them just setting up the New Republic for failure, which eventually we see. And, the
yeah,
thing where all three of their planets get one shot by the stupid fucking planet they
yeah.
built.
Which is why I think Balin is so indifferent to it, because I don't know if he said this line, but I remember like some line being out there about this, or maybe it's just in my imagination. But like, it's like the idea that like governments come and go frequently in Star Wars, right? Like, it's always like the old Republic, the new Republic, the Empire. Like,
Guy from
like
that was the only good guy from that second movie. What was that? The Rise of the Skywalkers or something like that. What was the second
Last
one in
Jedi.
between? The Last Jedi. Yeah. That
What
was that
guy?
arms trader. That arms trader guy is like, oh, you blow them
Oh
up.
yeah, 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 yeah,
You
yeah.
blow them up today, they blow you up tomorrow, which I think is like one of the greatest lines in all of Star Wars. Like, and it's funny that it's hidden in that movie in particular, but I think it really does
Bro,
speak to kind of one of the hard themes of Star Wars,
I
which is very much an anti-war message.
I know it's a hot take, but it's a good one. I'm telling you, The Last Jedi is a good movie. It's just not a
Yeah,
very good Star Wars movie.
yeah.
Like it
Well,
just
too, yeah, there are parts of it too, but I don't know. There's some parts of it I didn't like, and
okay. Like if we can keep the arms dealer guy, but get rid of the whole Canto Bite sequence, the
Yeah,
movie's better automatically. I mean, I
exactly.
get people really
That
dislike how they did Luke, but
Like I really feel like that aren't like they really missed the boat, that arms dealer guy. Like I feel like he was like the kind of rational person living, because we always feel like, we always get these gung ho people like in the Star Wars canon. They're either like super evil, like, ah, rah rah for the Empire, blah 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 blah. Or like,
yeah,
or the plucky, like, the plucky rebels, like, oh, we need to become the Galactic Resistance and stop the Empire. There's never like people in the middle. I was like, can you guys stop shooting the fuck out of each other and blowing up planets in your dumb political war?
yeah.
Like, it's just
Which is
it just
why,
keeps.
like, to that point, like that's why I mentioned like throughout this series, like throughout Ahsoka, like it's refreshing to see people with their own agency that just don't like. They're not just monoliths of everything we've seen in Star Wars. It's like bad guys are bad and they're all doing bad things. The good guys are good and they're all doing good things. Like we see like people like yeah they'll associate with the bad guys, but they're gonna ultimately do what they want. And the only people we really see that in Star Wars in are like pirates and smugglers, right? Like they'll do the right thing in the end, but like they'll work with bad guys too every now and then. They'll work with whoever pays them, right?
Yeah.
Like Hondo and even like Lando and stuff. Like these are characters that like live in more of a gray area and have their own agency, but ultimately do the right thing in the end. And to me, like we see that a little bit with like Balin. Like that's how he seems, but I haven't seen him do the right thing yet. It just seems like he wants to at some point.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah. Well, I think he really wants. I really well. What I think is that he wants to. So I think he wants Ahsoka to kill him. That's what I think. Like so he can die. That's kind of what the vibe I'm getting, to be honest with you. That he wants to like
I
duel
don't
Ahsoka one on
know.
one.
She literally like okay, like they were battling in this episode, and he was like, "Yo, you can't beat me," and she's like, "I don't have to," and then
Mm,
I don't think he thinks she can win, and I don't think she thinks she can win. Like I think Balin knows that he can kill her, but
mm,
I don't know. Like it's weird because it seems like he's more than happy to like buy time and postpone and fight, but like there's like some weird like melancholy around him that like he doesn't want to. I feel like we're gonna learn his backstory more in the last episode of the season, but if we don't, like, when will we ever learn it? Never, because like unfortunately the actor's passed away.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough. Um, it's real tough. But yeah, like so the other things that happened in this episode is like Ahsoka, obviously arrives. There's a big minefield around the planet.
Mm.
She
The whales are getting exploded.
I mean, not really. They're not even
They're
like
blowing
affected. They
up.
just go back into
They're going
hyperspace
out.
and leave. Yeah,
He's like so stupid dude to watch the whales like going oh.
bro. Like those. I don't know if it was just like the CGI or something, but like they didn't seem affected at all. Like it looked like people were just throwing tennis balls at them.
Yeah.
Like it just bounced off them, and then they just flew away. And then yeah, and so yeah, Ahsoka like flies around and does some stuff, and Thrawn is like being a tactical genius, but he doesn't really do anything that genius. I guess I don't know.
Mm.
I still don't feel like Thrawn is like showing why he should be considered a threat. Like for like people who don't know Thrawn already, like they're just watching this. In my imagination, is they're watching this going like, okay, he's the bad guy, and if he returns, everything like the Empire will return, but what's he doing? Like, let's do this. Let's like, but his end goal is just to escape. So like, you've already given up the ghost. Like, we don't. Nobody's surprised by what Thrawn is doing. Whereas like when you read about Thrawn or when you watch Rebels, like, there's some like surprise at like of what he does and how he does it in the end. Like, there's nothing surprising about it. He's just like, we'll just deploy some gunmen, and then
Yeah.
we'll leave because
Yep.
we'll bring them back because they bought us enough time. We're almost done storing our cargo. Like,
Yeah.
bro, you think Ahsoka and Sabine are sitting there thinking like, oh, Thrawn will clearly wait for us and try to wipe us out before he leaves. Like, no, they know like he probably just wants to bounce
Yeah.
and abandon them there because how would they get home? Bro, you're gonna use the Force to connect with star whales across the galaxy? I mean, Ezra maybe could, because Ezra can connect with animals, which we haven't seen at all, really. Other than maybe, are the Noti considered animals? Is that maybe how he communicates with them? I don't know. But he's been there for a
No
long
idea.
time, so he probably learned their language. Who knows? Like that's the problem. explain shit to us because, bro, we don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it's still a good episode, and there was lots of cool battles and fighting. There was cool space battles happening, which is always cool. But ultimately, I don't feel like I know more than I knew before about anything.
Mm.
But it's good to see Ezra back, right? It's good to see the reunion with Ahsoka and Sabine
Yeah.
and all
So
that
I saw
stuff.
on the internet a lot of people were mad. Haha. No, that's it.
People are
But
mad.
also people are mad. Yeah, but also they're mad because Ezra didn't take up his lightsaber. I saw some people were mad about that.
I mean, I think a lot of people were waiting because they wanted to see what he would do with
Mm.
the lightsaber, like see if he's like gained some skills and whatever. Um, I thought it was cool watching him just fight with the Force, but
Mm.
at the same time, yeah, like it wasn't the handing him the lightsaber and him throwing it that Luke did, uh, but it felt like it kind of probably to a lot of people, right?
Mm.
Which is just like there was like a meme about it, like of like Sabine handing the lightsaber like Rey would, and then it was like Luke but with Ezra's head, and he just throws it. And I was like, bro, if
Yeah.
that happens, I will give up on life. I will just quit life. But luckily that didn't happen. But I can understand why people feel like that happened. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean I also half expected when Ahsoka arrived for her to give him one of her lightsabers, but she didn't. So I don't know. At that point, everybody's retreating, and then Shin is just like, he's like, "I can help you," or Ahsoka's like, "I can help you. Come, Shin, I will help you." And she's like, "Nah, I'm chill. I'm leaving." All right. So I feel like there's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up by the end of the finale, and I don't think they have time to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's why I think like literally Thrawn will jump off into lightspeed, and the season will end. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll
Or
be Ahsoka
I think
season
it'll
2.
be I think it'll be his like I don't think it'll be him like going, but him like his like thing dropping out of light speed over some planet maybe with some like people like maybe the remnants of the Empire looking out over it or something like that. That's what I think this is like we're gonna see most likely.
Yeah, I mean it's
Moff Gideon's still out there, or at least you
God,
and I think he's still out there because he got incinerated but he didn't die. So now we think he's probably like fused into the armor or whatever, and like some discount Darth Vader.
bro. Uh, we Star Wars needs to learn its lesson and stop recurring villains. Okay,
No.
we don't need villain recurrence all the time. Um, I don't know. I'm just hoping that like the finale, it does the show justice and isn't just like it doesn't annoy people too much. And I know if like Luke shows up, it will annoy a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I don't anticipate that. I do anticipate Thrawn returning though, and the season ending there. And then who knows if it'll be Ahsoka season 2 where we continue this story, or if it'll be something else. And it all makes sense to me because like they've already kind of established they're open to these interconnecting stories amongst different shows and movies hopefully in the future. And so like the Book of Boba Fett was really just the Mandalorian season 2.5, but at the same time it's like they tie in to that, right? They're willing to tie through things. And so it wouldn't surprise me if like these characters show up in another person's show or whatever. Like we'll have to wait and see. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, um, how did you feel about the episode though overall? Like, do you feel like it's on par with the rest of
Overall,
the season?
overall it was fine. Yeah, like I said, we had that slow episode 6 was a bit slower, so you and I anticipated this episode was gonna be a lot faster. And there was like all the fighting and the star whales and the minefield and the going through things and the fighters chasing them and the overland battle and those shell crawler floating things and the brief lightsaber duel and just had a little bit of everything. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was anticipating. But So far, I've got to say, Ahsoka really isn't like blowing my socks off. I'm gonna just put that out there.
The
Like, and
show or the
I'm not
character?
the show, and I don't think there's a lot they can do, like, in this last episode to really change my mind to say like, wow, this is the best thing that's ever made. I still think,
Andor.
season two, yeah, Andor is probably the best of them. So season two of Mandalore was turning out to be really good, but then like, it was used as a jumping off point for like three other shows. That
Two of
kind of
which got canceled.
Yeah, I wish so. That to me just kind of started the taste in my mouth, and then like one of those shows was just more of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It was just it literally was Mandalorian season and a half because he was in the last four episodes anyway.
Bro,
Season three,
there were literally 2 or 3 episodes that didn't even have Boba Fett in them.
season three would have been good if it had three or four more episodes. I think, like a few more wacky Star Wars episodes, and then probably two more building up the big final fight. But overall, it's still the FX is really cool. And like that last
Yeah.
scene where those Mandalorians were all flying at each other was like still really fucking badass. So that was cool. But Andor was just so good. But I think Andor was really kind of a sleeper hit. Because again, dude, like when I turn on FX, like for those of you who don't live in America, I know you said we had viewers like whatever in UK or whatever France or something.
Yeah.
But for those who don't live in America, FX is this like show where essentially they're just playing movies and like really good TV, like good movies, like things you could turn on in the background and watch. The FX channel, like and you have to pay a little bit extra for it to get it on most network cable packages, kind of like a discount. It's a discount version of what
Sci-fi.
HBO
Oh,
used to be.
not
Yeah,
sci-fi. Sci-fi is a discount version of FX.
yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, that's the best. I think that is actually the best description of sci-fi. Aside from like sci-fi was used to be the only place you could watch Doctor Who. So
Well,
that's like
and it
the only.
also used to be really. I mean, Farscape was on there, I believe, and
Yeah, that's true. I never watched Farscape, but everyone told me Farscape is really good. I'll watch
yeah,
it maybe someday. But FX like pay to have the rights to play Andor, and that lets you know that the quality of Andor, and they're still playing it. Like I saw it on the Comcast. Like my dad watches cable all every day, all day basically.
hmm.
When he's going through the channels, I saw that they had like Andor, like, and they probably just do the whole season on a runda, like, the entire thing, and it's probably probably one of their top rated shows 'cause how good it is. Because Andor is so freaking good. Like every episode's super compelling, especially like when you think it's like
Except
getting
like the
weird, like
first
getting in
two.
direction. If you would have thought like, wow, the Endor has where you go to an imperial prison and it's really motivational, like, yeah, I told you you're full of shit. And then I watched it, like, wow, this is like one of the best things I've ever seen in Star Wars in my entire fucking life. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Sorry, I'm
it
getting all
is.
hype about it, but Andor is like really, Andor was so good, bro.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
so intense. I think is the best way. It felt like it was for adults. I gotta get my
right.
parents to watch Andor. They probably really love it, but they're watching
Yeah,
Suits right now.
yeah.
They're not
You
getting
just
off
got to
that
get through
train for
like
a
the
while.
first couple episodes of Andor, really,
Yeah.
and then it picks up and goes crazy mode.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very intense, and that's I appreciate
People
that.
people are dying left and right. That's the thing for me. It was like when you're dealing with like situations where like combat, like people are when there's bullets, guns, laser bolts flying around, people are gonna die. And that's to me the thing. A lot of action shows never got right is sometimes like characters close to the main character die,
Yeah,
the bullets and stuff. So yeah, it's great, good stuff.
yeah. So, all
What
right.
else?
Well, I mean that's it really.
So how are you feeling about the whole season of Ahsoka so far? Do you think it's like blowing your socks off, or do you think it's like just pretty middle of the road?
Um, I think it's on the better end of things. Like it's certainly like to me it's not even a comparison. Like if you look between like Ahsoka and like Obi-Wan or Book of Boba Fett, like it's so far superior to those shows.
Hmm.
Um, and the only episode that really like what went crazy was like episode 5, right? But every other episode has been like above board at least. Like it's like above a certain standard. So like yeah, it hasn't been like this show that's like every week you're losing your mind and it's amazing, but
Yeah.
every week like is solid still. Like there's nothing disappointing about it.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. Ultimately, I feel like it's just a very enjoyable and there is fan service, but the fan service doesn't feel cheap and like it doesn't take away from the story in any
Hmm.
way. So I appreciate what they've done, and I hope that it continues in the finale. But we'll see what happens, and um, you know, the, like I said, nothing's really disappointing, but um, like we still haven't really seen Thrawn's capability. We've seen very little of Ezra's capability, and more or less he's just Space Moses at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so there's still a lot to be seen, and until we see or hear the things we need to, it's hard to fully judge everything.
Mm,
Because again, like if the season finale is just really bad, like it could for some people ruin their impression of the show as a whole, right?
yep.
And you see that dichotomy with shows like The Sopranos and stuff like that, right? Where it's like the ending, or even Game of Thrones, right? You get people who will say, "I'm
But
never gonna."
Game of Thrones and The Sopranos is a little bit different. I think The Sopranos ending was there was no way to end The Sopranos that would have made everyone happy, so they left it as open-ended as possible.
Sure,
Game of Thrones fell apart in the last two seasons, two
sure,
or three seasons.
sure,
The Soprano was quality right up until the end.
but you get
Ah,
two
God, I
two
love
different
fucking
kinds of people, right? You get the people who
yeah,
say, "I hated the ending, but I still loved the show. Was still amazing," right?
yeah,
Or you get people who say, "I can never rewatch the show again because the ending ruined the whole thing for me." Right,
yeah,
and so that's kind of what you'll get if the finale's bad. You'll get some people who go, "Yeah, but the previous 7 episodes were all really solid. I really enjoyed them." Like, and it sucks that the finale wasn't very good. But you'll get other people who go, "The finale was so bad, it just ruins like it puts a bad taste in my mouth. It ruins the whole season. Like, they ruined everything they built." Or just similar to how people felt about like when The Last Jedi came out. The people were like, they ruined everything that was established in The Force Awakens, even though like there was nothing really established in The Force Awakens. But
yeah,
you know, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else. We can wrap up and go eat some food, yo.
yep,
So
yo,
yow. All right. Well,
yo.
everyone, that's it. That's all we're saying today. But we'll be back next week, Wednesday, October 4th, I think, at at the time, guys, at the time, 5:30 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. That's when we'll be live, and we'll be talking with some people as well about the Ahsoka's episode 8 and the season as a whole. We'll give our thoughts on the whole season, and it'll be a lot of fun. So you can join us live or watch later on YouTube or Twitch, or listen wherever we podcast. All the platforms: Apple, Google, Amazon,
Mm.
Pandora, Spotify, all of them. We're everywhere. Just search Google, the Nerd Ledger. You'll find us. So, anything else, Chair? You got anything to say?
Nope,
All
that's
right.
about it. You covered it all, homie.
Much
Thanks
love, everybody.
for Thanks for listening to me.
Yeah, we're out of here. Goodbye.